I'm Evan DeWald, and I am joined by Tara Lindsley, and we are the voices behind the Unpacked podcast. On the Unpacked podcast, one of the things we love to do is talk about life and storytelling, and sometimes life gets messy and vulnerable and all those things. So we have conversations with counselors, with psychologists, with industry leaders, storytellers, and just regular humans that are making a difference in the world.
Yeah, and we're just hoping to grow and reflect and heal together. So you can find our podcast anywhere you subscribe to your podcasts. New episodes come out every Thursday. Enjoy.
Make sure to like and subscribe. See you there. Hey, Tara.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. How you feel? Recovered?
I think mostly.
What a fun weekend we had.
Right? We got to go to the mountains.
Yep. I have to admit, I was mildly disappointed that it was so like snowy and cold.
Yeah. Could we even see the mountains most of the time?
No, we didn't see the mountains much.
Yeah.
But we've been there enough times, we could imagine what they look like.
Yeah, we knew a little bit.
You look out the window, you're like, behind all that snow is actual mountains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good though.
Yeah, it ended up being probably really good actually for me because I ended up, we were just hanging out.
Yeah.
Watching movies, playing games, visiting, all those kind of things. And it wasn't like physically exhausting.
It was so good for that. It was so chill. And we also just have the best friends because it was like we all could take naps and just like move around, and you don't have to like all do everything together all the time.
Yeah. Also, it's like so fun to go away and hang out with friends and not worry about anything.
Yeah. Like for us, especially, we had no responsibilities.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
No Theo.
Yeah. Although I did miss him. Yeah. Thanks to Grandma B.
Yeah. You missed him.
On Sunday, I was like, was it Sunday? Yeah. I was like, oh, I kind of miss him.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then I went home and I actually got a hug when I walked in the door.
Oh.
It was like a reluctant, like, I'm not going to show you I like this, but he didn't stop moving towards me. So then
That's pretty good.
He got a little hug.
That is good. So it wasn't like I miss him at 3:00 in the morning.
No. No, I don't miss that.
Our listeners are like, what? You're like, yeah, that little guy, he's been
waking up in the middle of the night.
He's causing you some trouble.
A little bit, yeah. But he's back on his, we reset on Monday. And I was like, or Sunday night, I was like, yeah, no more of that. Although I have been waking up to him changing his own pull-up. It's a new development.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm like,
sign of independence.
That's right. And I was like, turns out you could just go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Every time that I go to the washroom, I remind myself it's a sign of independence. I've grown and matured from my earlier days. Hey, things I learned this weekend.
Oh, okay.
I learned that Unpacked has a YouTube channel.
We do. I just decided to experiment a little bit and see if we just put the audio with a graphic on there, what that does.
Yeah.
It's not overly exciting, but if you like to, or if you prefer YouTube as a platform.
Yeah.
It can work.
So are you going to start posting videos on there too then?
Well, someone would have to produce and edit those. So Are you volunteering or?
No.
Oh. And then we'd actually have to like shower.
Like not show up in my construction clothes like I am right now.
Well, I'm just saying I didn't shower today either. So
I was, doing some, small drywalling just before you.
You don't have to defend yourself. I'm just telling you, if you're going to be on camera, you might want to shower.
Fair enough.
You'll be asking me how's your hair, and then I'll have to, make sure.
A couple other things that I would want our listeners to hear is that we're going to be doing some advertising on the podcast.
Yeah. We're going to sell some spots. You can DM us or email us and we can chat a little bit more about a package.
What that would look like or what it would cost and some of those kind of things. And yeah. Also, we're doing some resources. We're going to work on a little bit of like an Enneagram resource here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think some stances stuff, which will be kind of fun. So
that honestly has been one of the most useful things in terms of relationally, the stances.
And it's not really like number specific. You don't necessarily need to know your Enneagram type. So it's actually just a way of understanding how you come into a room with what energy.
Yeah. Once you learn that, then you can learn like what is the appropriate energy for any kind of given conversation.
Yeah. So you can sign up for our newsletter. That will come out at some point.
Oh yeah, there you go. You just said it. The newsletter.
Yeah.
So the unpackedpod.ca, Unpacked Pod.
Yeah.
unpackedpod.ca. You can sign up for our newsletter there.
Yeah. There's just a pop-up. Yeah.
There's also lots of resources on that page already. If you want to see past episodes, you want to see some of the things we're up to, there's like links and bios to some of our professionals, all those things. My coaching stuff is on there.
Yeah. We have some sticky notes of like books and podcasts we like to listen to.
Yeah.
Things we refer to.
There's a playlist on there for Enneagram things, right?
Yeah. I was thinking about making an adoption one because it's adoption month right now.
Oh, you totally should do that.
Yeah. So that would be fun because we did that all last November. Yeah. We have like a whole series on like birth parents, adoptive parents, adoptee siblings. So that's kind of fun.
It is fun. And we're not giving up. We got a few other like projects in our imagination.
Yeah. Some series that we want to come out with.
Yep.
We got to get the Enneagram one done so we can finish that up soon.
Yeah. Yep. A couple more Enneagram conversations and we'll have a whole series on that too. Today we're going to talk Enneagram a little bit.
Kind of. Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk with somebody who knows a bit about the Enneagram.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Who ended up coaching us a little bit at the beginning too.
Yeah. He can't resist. It's in it, you know.
Neither can we.
It's like blood. It's in you to give.
Yeah.
He just can't. He couldn't resist. Right. It does not help that this is a guy who already has coached me. He was your first meeting, but he's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of his. So
yeah, because you listen to his podcast too.
The Art of Growth.
Yeah, The Art of Growth. Yeah, it's Joel Hubbard is his name. And he is basically one of the founders of The Art of Growth. And he's an Enneagram coach and trainer and teacher. And he is my trainer.
Yeah.
And teacher. He actually is. It was through The Art of Growth that I got my certification. Hey, do you know they're doing another certification course right now?
I did see that. And they just dropped a whole series on stances and attachment styles.
Yes, they did.
In October. So
very good. I listened to the whole thing. I have some friends on there.
I know. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, some of my Enneagram clan from my own certification course were on there.
That's so cool.
It's pretty awesome. Just mildly jealous that I didn't get invited.
Yeah, what happened?
Well, they had a 7.
Oh.
And they had a sexual 7 already.
Dang.
And it's actually Joel. Like, quite literally, this guy we're going to talk to today is the same type and same stacking of instincts as I do.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little bit older than me.
And what's interesting too is, I don't know if we'll keep it or not, but he did work with an Enneagram too fairly closely.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So we end up getting a little coached by him.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah.
Just a bit. But the episode, he came on and we ended up talking about belonging. Oh man, this is a topic that's been on my mind for, well, probably my whole life. But even more in recent days, I've been thinking and talking a lot about belonging. I've even written some. Do you know that I'm writing like blog posts for Chestermere today?
I did see that.
Who would have ever thought I'd be writing something? You just laugh because you thought that.
No, I didn't. I was like, you've been writing things for like 28 years.
Yeah, but it's, I just always have to, I get to talk it out afterwards. I don't just have to leave it in written word.
Still writing.
Anyways, yeah, I ended up writing some stuff on belonging and was really thinking about belonging a lot. And what does that look like? And how do we talk about that? And so it kind of made some sense to have him come on and talk about it. He had made some reference to it in one of their podcasts. And I was like, that's the topic we should talk to him about.
Yeah, it was like belonging and burnout, wasn't it?
Yeah. The episode was that we listened to was on belonging and burnout. And then he just came on and we just went back and forth on what does it mean to belong?
Yeah. And he was, preparing for some talks they're doing. So he has some like theories and some like pieces around it that he's trying to work out too and understand a little bit better. So it was fun. Yeah,
it was. And I think that that's something that we don't like. Oh man, I don't know how to word this, but I think that's one of the unconscious desires that we all have.
Is to belong.
Yeah. And I think there are points when we recognize that that's what it is. But I think often we operate out of a sense of just not feeling like we belong, but not being able to say that's what it is.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether you're talking about, systemic racism, you're talking about inclusion, you're talking about, ageism, you're talking about whatever it is that you're talking about. These are all topics that are related to this. What does it mean to have a sense of belonging?
Yeah.
I think it's a human condition.
I think so too.
I think we were made to deeply desire that sense of belonging. Yeah. I think we were all made for purpose and we were all made to belong. And both of those things are elusive in our stories.
Yeah.
They're hard to find.
Yeah. And even understand fully.
Yeah. But a lot of the things and the actions and the behaviors that we have, they're rooted in it. Right? It's like we get angry when we don't feel we belong. or somebody else doesn't feel they belong. We get frustrated when we're operating out of a sense of, or a lack of purpose, direction, right? Like it's almost as if something inside of us is calling out. It's an interesting thing, asking yourself, even as you listen to this episode, what are the things that you look for in your sense of belonging and purpose? Yeah. What does that look like? And then it's, I'll flip that upside down too, because it's not just what is it that you're looking for in belonging, but maybe a good question, even as you listen to this, is what are you doing to create space, make room at the table, so to speak, for others?
Yeah. I wonder if it does have to start with you.
I think so.
Right? Like you have to find that to be able to give it more wholly and deeply.
Yeah. Like I think that's a little bit of what we'll end up talking about, right? Is that it's like an environment, you can make statements and, right, this is our vision or goal or whatever. And then if you of course are accountable to live to that. If you value making space for people, then you have to actually value it. But then on the other side too, it's like you don't find a space of belonging if you don't know yourself. Like if you haven't figured out who you are and ask some of those questions of yourself, then how do you know if you belong?
Right.
And there's a big difference. Brene Brown has pointed out there's a big difference between fitting in and belonging. Yeah,
which is a helpful way to look at things too.
Yeah, we won't get too much into that, but you can Google that. I think she has a YouTube channel. Hey, we're glad that you're listening. We love that you like, follow, share, subscribe, all of those things. Sign up for the newsletter.
Yeah.
Long list of things. Look forward to some of the coming episodes, like the series on the Enneagram and the secret one that we're not telling anybody about yet. And like all of those kind of things that we're really excited to kind of continue this. And yeah, it's kind of our hope to have more and more people kind of get involved and share.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy this episode on belonging.
That's cool.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So you've only emailed with Tara. This is Tara.
Hi.
Very good to meet you, Tara.
Yeah, you too.
And Tara's she's my Enneagram buddy and
true.
Co-host on this podcast deal that we're doing. So.
Very nice. Very nice.
We
fun.
Yeah, we have, how long have I known you?
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years. Yeah.
Nice.
Her husband Ryan was in my youth group when he was growing up.
Nice.
And so then I did their wedding and some of those kind of things. And then she started working for me at the church, or with me, more like it. Well, it was a little bit for me, trying to make me look better than I actually am. And then, for like 5 or 6 years. And that's how we started the podcast and all that kind of fun stuff. So
Tara, you used to have the ability to take the concepts of the 7 and actually do something with it.
Yes. I like all the dreaming and I make it happen. Just the good ones.
It's a good one.
That's a very good, that's a very impressive gift and ability. We admire people who can do that, who can take our chaos and create some order out of it.
Well, and you said it right. She just said it right too. It's like the good part about being around 7 is they dream all kinds of dreams, and then you just get to pick the ones you like.
Yeah.
And we don't actually even remember the other ones.
All the other ones. It works out great for me.
Oh no, definitely. I'm looking for something new. Even as I was answering some of your questions that you sent, which were excellent. I love the questions you sent. I'm looking at one of them, and it's something like, "What are you working on?" Like, okay, what should I say I'm working on? Because I'm not interested in the things I just finished.
The things you should be promoting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I got to gin up some interest. I got to pretend I'm interested in the thing that we're working on right now.
Yeah, that is so. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yes, that does happen.
I have a marketing company as well. My background's in marketing, and that is a lot of what Evan's really great at communicating, which I assume you are as well. But I've often had to be like, okay, this is the thing we're going to focus on, though.
It's like, yesterday.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, I'm awful at that, and it's people say, well, so what are you working on? I'm like, Oh yeah, that book Driven to Drawn, but like that's so yesterday. I'm on this other book that I'm doing right now. Well, let's talk about that. So, but no, it's really good to have people around who can take our mess and make something out of it. So
Tara has the double privilege of getting to work for my wife, Kristen, too.
Yes.
So she like works for both of us over here at the DeWald house. Well, you don't work for me anymore. We're partners now in the podcast deal.
Right.
So it's not really working for me. Although you are doing some restorative justice stuff.
Yeah, so that we're still working together.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes.
Anyways.
remind me what type Kristen is.
Kristen's an 8.
Okay. Yeah.
And Tara's a 2.
Yeah. That's great. 8s. Yeah, they're a great match. I really love pairing myself up with 8s. We get stuff done. It's fantastic. And 8s love it. They love that sort of like, bring it, bring your creative, bring your juice, bring your, they do something with it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a good pairing with the 8, the 7 and the 2. It's really cool. Head, heart, body.
Yeah, there you go. We got all 3. There you go.
Yeah, that's true.
Although I will say that over at the DeWald house, there's not a lot of feelings like that anyone wants to overly acknowledge. So Tara rolls in here and be like, how's everyone feeling today?
So true.
Like, that is a waste of our time today. Let's get some work done.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Actually, Tara, honestly, Tara has been a great gift in this last little season of life, because I am trying really hard to be attentive to my feelings. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's been a few moments where I was like, okay, I regret deciding to open this little jar of feelings around this. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I changed my mind. And you can't put them back in.
No, once you've done it, you're done. Yeah. Yeah. It's I never had empathy until a couple years ago. And I had sympathy. I had tons of sympathy. So, man, someone's hurting. I hurt. Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel bad. I cry with you and all that. But to actually begin to feel what other people feel without them naming it is, wow, that's been a whole huge, growth area. But once you open the heart opens, and it opens in every dimension. Empathy. You're aware of your own feelings.
Yeah, all the other stuff.
Started asking my heart a year ago. I started asking my heart, so what are you feeling? Because what was happening, I was angry or frustrated, but what are you feeling? And then it would say, I miss connection. I want connection. And I would hear it and I'd say, oh man, that's rough. That's hard. How do you do that? And so I was like really struggling with it. And now I don't have to ask it. It just immediately, as soon as there's an interaction that doesn't go well and there's separation, I feel it right here. Feel it in the chest. And it's, that hurts. So it's beautiful. I love it. But it's remarkable. It's tremendously painful. And I have 0 pain tolerance. I mean, I'm really low, So typical 7s, our pain tolerance is like, as soon as there's any emotional pain, it's like, I can't deal with this. Right. So,
yeah. Well, I think too, like that's very helpful actually. Yeah. That's actually, that is an incredible observation. Yeah. Really. And even a little bit as we get ready to talk about belonging, like honestly, for me, there was that little, like I listened to your podcast that you guys did on burnout and belonging that you said wasn't planned and was just kind of, you guys getting together to talk, which are absolutely my favorite kinds of conversations. There was so many things that rang true for me around what does it mean for us to experience, mostly around the belonging part, which you had said you were writing about, and obviously you were all talking about. And I to me, there is a sense of like, how can we as an organization, and I'm coming off of some pretty hot stuff, so I have to be really be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also, at the same time, I'm like, I don't understand how we can talk about a loving God and not talk about things like inclusion and or belonging. And I loved the like you made a point of saying in the podcast, well, inclusion and being an inclusive place, this is what I heard, is the responsibility of the organization, the leader, all of those kinds of things. And to create a place where someone could belong. This is how I heard it. But somebody actually belonging there is also on their own, on themselves. It's on them to do the work of, do I have a sense of belonging in who I am?
Yeah.
And I love that. And that was a little bit of partly why we wanted to talk to you. We wanted to talk to you about so many things. Tara's like, I want to talk to him about grief, the 7 and grief. I was like, can we not?
Yeah. It was suggested, maybe not.
Yeah, man.
I was like, no, he's going to read me like a book. I don't want to do that.
Oh, I know. If you're not ready, don't go there. Yeah, I'm an expert at grief now. I mean, because I did it all wrong. And then I figured out I had to figure out the way that the 7 can grieve. Because the first time it led me into a depression. And I was like, never again. So I bounced out, which was good. I started feeling better. And then the next time I went in was through Richard Rohr and his stuff on grief. And that was profound, absolutely profound for me. And so I'm now up to date. I don't carry a backlog of unprocessed grief. And so when it shows up, it passes through much more easily for me than it used to. Doesn't stay. Grief is not to be thought about. Grief is to be felt and then expressed or exercised or discharged through the body.
Oh,
but yes, no, I'm excited about this, and I want to dive into the good stuff on belonging.
Yeah. Well, so to kick it off, can you just tell us a little bit about you and who's Joel?
Who is Joel? I've been trying to answer that question. The one thing I hate talking about more than anything is anything to do with my bio. Like if I have to do a bio for my website or something else, I hate it. But yes, so. I grew up in the, church world all my life, became a minister because I felt like I wanted to reform that whole world. And so I jumped in and started doing that and realized that was a little optimistic on my part. But yeah, I went to seminary, did the typical thing, went to seminary, became a senior pastor and did that for a bunch of years. And all the while, got married young. So my wife and I met in Bible college. And so I went there first and we met, got married. And then it was not until I hit 40 that we had our first child. So our one and only. So we've been blessed to have this wonderful 12-year-old. He just turned 12. And oh man, he's such a joy, so much fun. Probably I think it was 2016 when I went through my burnouts phase. I didn't know I was burned out, but I started being able to see it. Other people could tell, and read into the Enneagram, and I don't remember how. I just did somehow through a book, through something someone said, and found myself. And it was at that point that I started doing some of the work that I didn't want to do, the internal work. I hated this kind of work because I like doing a lot of personal growth. But when it came to naming the real core issue, that's the thing I was avoiding. So as a type 7. So anyways, I started doing some of the work, started seeing some growth. And then I felt sort of drawn to it and called to it. It was a weird feeling of just like, I think I'm supposed to do this. So I told my wife January of 2017, and she agreed, which was a surprise to me. She's like, yeah, I think you're made for this. So went off and got certified, and rest is history, as they say, just kind of took off on its own. So
yeah. Okay. Wow. And that was when so did you start up Art of Growth right then? Or
no, I didn't know, because I went this, typical 7. It's like there's a feeling, a sense, but I'm not sure what it is. So I just went for it, and I knew that if I went for it, something else would emerge. But I couldn't tell what it would be. But during my certification, we had to do these panel interviews where you interview 3 or 4 of the same type. And this is still, and I'm still pastoring. I'm in the church world. And Jim, who was my assistant pastor, he said, well, why don't we record these since you're doing them? And why don't we record them and put them on, podcasts? I'm like, okay, whatever, sure. Never thinking anything of it. And then several weeks later, he says, Joel, we're up to about 20,000 downloads. Like, wow. Nothing I've ever done has said that. It's like, what is, we tried some other podcasts before. It was like 500 downloads, that was it. And then from there it just exploded and kept going. And, we then started getting calls from people across the country saying, hey, do you coach? Do you do so? Sure. Yeah. I'll try my hand at coaching. And fell in love with it. I didn't know that I would. It wasn't obvious to me. So I started doing more and more coaching. So I had my own little business on the side that I was doing, which was just essentially coaching people as they called and reached out to me. And then in 2020, we officially decided to go for it. And let's create the Art of Growth. Let's make this into a business. And so Jim pursued his certification, and, yeah, so that's kind of how it started.
Cool. Mm-hmm. How did your church community experience the Enneagram? Because I know that some in the faith community are there's some tension there for them and their understanding. Was that something that was generally accepted in the congregation you were in, or in your family members, and et cetera, et cetera?
No, not at all. I was met with a lot of resistance, actually, which surprised me because I came back a changed person. So I went there for 3 weeks, and what happened to me in those 3 weeks was nothing short of like a rebirth of sorts. And so I came back and shared the stories, and it was like a lead balloon, and it was remarkable to see the response. Like I thought, why am I not getting positive energy in return? Like I didn't feel any positive energy. Fear. Yeah, it was a lot of fear. So, and then I started getting people were saying things, meanwhile, so this was interesting to me is meanwhile, my church is resistant to it. And yet there's this massive community that's reaching out to us, and we're doing coaching for them. And, I'm offering things for free in my church and not getting any bites. And I'm charging people out in the world and I'm getting plenty of bites. So it was a strange kind of experience for me. And one that hurt my heart, because I really wanted this for people, and I knew it would help them. And many of them I've known for years. And I was so excited that I thought, here's a tool that can actually help you. And it didn't get met with the response I was hoping for. Yeah.
I've felt that, experienced that. What if there's anything that's happened in the last, decade, honestly, not just in the last months, is my passion to see people grow. Is like, it is my calling. I want to help people grow. I don't care if they're in the church or out of the church, or I just want to help people grow. That's what I want to do. And I think that's been the draw of the Enneagram for me, is that I see it as a tool that has helped me to grow. And it is a tool that helps others to grow. One of the things we wanted to talk to you about was the sense of belonging. And I know you've thought about this lots, and you have a posture about you that is just very open. And I do think that you create a sense of safety around you. And to me, that's one of the things that I attribute to belonging, is like, what does that work like? So can you talk to us a little bit about what you've been learning about belonging and environments, whether that's a workplace environment or a faith community environment, or even just a belonging in who you are as yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'll do my best. I mean, this is still a subject that I don't think I want to state very clearly. I am not an expert in the area of belonging. We have experts. Brene Brown is one of them. Phenomenal. But my own story is recognizing, I think early on in life, and this is mixture of both nurture and nature. And I'm convinced that the best explanations about our own upbringing, our own formation has to include both. Some people want to put it all on nurture. The way I was raised shaped who I am. It's like, no, that's your type. You would have been that way regardless. And then other parts, it's that, oh yeah, definitely nurture for sure. Yeah, that's beyond the type itself. And so for me, it's a bit of both. And so as a type 7, I'm naturally more anti-hierarchical. I like lifting up those who are ignored or repressed or pushed down, and I love including people. I'm interested in people. I'm interested in variety. So that is natural for me, but it doesn't mean that it was always easy or that there were certain people that were easy for me to include. No, I had my, just like anybody else, it's like, sure, I'll include all these people, but interestingly enough, why am I not including this group here? So, but I think my formation, because I'm bilingual, I grew up speaking French first and having to learn English in school. I know what the feeling is like to be othered. I know what it is like to not understand a thing that is happening around you, or to feel like you are completely on the outside of everything that's happening. Jokes, TV. I didn't watch TV. My parents were anti-TV. They were anti-everything. So it was, no TV, no movies, no secular music. Don't hang out with any friends who are not within the church. And since our churches were mostly cults and very tiny, that's an exaggeration. They weren't mostly cults. There was a couple that were, but my emotions are getting the best of me right now. So the feelings, or the way I experienced belonging early on was I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the sense of belonging in the school. The schools I attended, didn't feel it almost anywhere I went. And since my personality was troubling to a lot of people in my environment, there was always a sense in which I had to edit and control and repress and hold back, saying things I didn't realize were wrong or shouldn't have been said, asking questions I didn't know I wasn't supposed to ask. And so I don't think there's anybody in the world who does not know what it is like to be othered. I don't think there is. I think everybody knows that feeling. Whether it's because you're Black, you're Hispanic, you're gay, you're male, you're female, whatever it is you are, you have had that sense of being othered at some point. Maybe you weren't great at sports. Maybe you weren't the intellect in the room. Maybe whatever it is, we know the feeling. And so I tune into that feeling. And when I tune into that feeling and I sit across from someone who has felt othered, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, I know what that's like. Yeah. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing wrong. Nothing to feel bad about, other than that it hurts. So I've never once felt like I'm superior to you, especially if you open up and you talk to me about what's going on in you. Man, I am with you, because I have also struggled. And so for me, that's foundational to that sense of belonging. Maybe I did it. I stumbled on this. It wasn't like I intentionally, it's just my heart said yes to that. Like, I want that. I want that for them. It's probably because I wanted it for me. I didn't experience it. And so I was trying to create it. And I think that's a lot of us, right? We sort of, if we didn't have something, we're trying to create it in the world, so we try to create it in the work world. We try to create it in our families, maybe in the church if we attend church, if we go to church, whatever. It's any social circle, we're trying to recreate something that we didn't have.
Yeah. I remember when I was young, I looked up to my grandfather a lot. And I remember my mom saying at one point, she was like, you know what? I was a rebellious kid, pushed a little bit of the boundaries, kind of a little bit what you're talking about.
A little bit.
Similar kind of experience. So my parents were in the context of the church. It was a pretty strict kind of a thing. There was a lot of it did feel like there was a real sense of like, God loves those who behave well.
Yeah.
His love is based on behavior, right? And but I do remember at one time my mom saying, you know what, Evan, one day you're going to grow up and you're going to get to pick and choose what you like about who we are as your parents or your grandfather is, and you're going to get to leave parts. And it's so funny because in kind of a moment of, this is the quick-witted 7, I think, in me, but I was like, okay, well, what didn't you take from Grandpa? And she just quickly was like, his obsessive need to be like 25 minutes early for everything. And it's so funny because my mom was chronically late pretty much at that time. And I was like, that is so strange because that's exactly the thing I'm not going to be taking from you is you be late all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, it does skip a generation. Like that is how it works. But I think that you are right. I think we do try to fill the gaps in our future world, our present world, to the things that we experienced when we were young. And I do think that is one of those senses of like, that maybe there are some more folks who had a keen sense of not belonging when they were kids, who now actually are really working to create a sense of belonging around themselves. I definitely see that in people. Yeah. And that they are the kinds of people who are pointing out, what it means to be seen, not just for them, but for the sake of those around them and some of those things. I pulled up the Forbes article that you guys were referring to and had a look at it. And essentially the article is, it's just an article on belonging in the workplace. And Forbes has written a bunch of articles on belonging. Actually, there was quite a few in there. I wasn't even able to get through them all. But essentially they were like, in terms of a workplace, there's 4 kind of components of belonging. I might even push them even, like I can see they're talking about it in the context of business. So here's what they are. And just off the top of your head, what do you think? So the first is to be seen. People need to be seen. They need to connect with the people in their office or around them. It doesn't mean they need to be best friends. They just need to connect. They need to feel supported, not just in the tasks that they're doing. And Forbes, the article is very clear, not just in the tasks they're doing, but in like their life. And then the last one is they have to be proud. They have to be proud of the values of the organization that they're a part of. Would you add anything to that, or what do you think? Like, what jumps out to you most when you think about that?
Yeah, well, I kind of wrote down, if I were to describe belonging in a I think in a simple, very, very simple way, it is and this is not what goes into creating belonging, but rather this is the experience of feeling that sense of belonging. So the feeling, I think, in the sense of it is, you can say 3 things. You can say that I'm seen, I'm loved, and I'm wanted. I'm seen. You see the whole of me, not just the parts that I want you to see, but you see other parts of who I am as well. And that doesn't mean in every context we do this. There's wisdom. Certainly, you don't do this you have to be very, very, I'd say discerning as to where you are, who you're around, because you can experience some real painful, rejection if you're around unsafe people, or people that are just not in a place of, health or maturity or whatever the case might be, or just the wrong timing. Sometimes it's just good people, but just wrong timing. But those are the feelings. I'm seen for who I am, and you love me as I am, and you love the whole of me. So this was a big part for me that started to change even my view, my theology, my view of God in the church world, was that the idea there was to love, but every time I heard it, it was conditional. Didn't matter how many times they said God's love is unconditional. Everything that came through after that point was conditional. And there was sort of like a behavior, like, that part I don't like, and you need to change that part. But I love you, but you need to change that part. And what I came to experiential truth, not propositional truth, experiential truth was when I looked at the different parts that I didn't want to see in me. And I said to those parts, I love you. Even the parts that created tremendous shame for me. And I said, I welcome you. I welcome you back and I love you. That it was then that my system began to relax and I began to feel this thing that I had not known I could ever feel, which was a sense of inner belonging. And then it makes it possible for me to also receive the love that is coming my way. So I'm convinced love's always coming our way. It's just we have a hard time receiving it. So this is where I'm a little bit both and, where it's, yes, belonging is something you create for yourself, but it's also something that's created around you and for you. It's both. It's not something you can say one it flies solo by itself, doesn't need the other. No, you need both. So, Terry, you'd sent me a question. I think it's a brilliant question. It's like, is belonging created by your environment? Is it their responsibility? Whose responsibility is it? And the answer is, it is absolutely both. And the way that it works, and it is inextricably connected, is if you try to create belonging, as I said earlier, I tried to create belonging. It's fine. It's a good attempt. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a stage of development. Then you have to recognize that the limitations you're running into are limitations that are internal. The reason why you can't extend belonging beyond where you are is because you haven't made the belonging happen here inside you. And so the holy other, now, pardon me as I get a little theological here, but we love to as those of us in the evangelical Christian world, we love whatever, Catholic, Protestant, we love the holy other, meaning God, which is that's one of the ways to describe that from a theological perspective. It's the holy other, that which is different than us. That's what holiness essentially means. It's that which is different, that which is other than the common use. It had all sorts of meanings, but that was one of them, one of the big ones. And I remember thinking, that's fascinating how, and it was Dietrich Bonhoeffer actually, who was reading one of his books that really wrecked me, because it's like, oh, you love your private God. It's like, oh, dang. That's the God I've created. And then immediately I connected it right to the command, the first commandment there, to love the Lord your God, but not to have any other idols before God. And it was like, well, I created, that's what I'm doing all the time. Every image I have, every understanding I have of the divine is at some point becomes an idol that needs to be taken down, right? It needs to be traded up in a sense for a more expansive, a holy other that's actually more holy and more other. So then I had to go inwardly and look at all the parts that I had othered. And to the degree that I was able to love those other parts also gave me an understanding that the God that I'd created within was a God that was limited by my own growth and my own development. It was a stage at which I was. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a stage of where I was. And as I began to love the different parts of me, I was also able to start to love the different parts of other people. And then the understanding of the divine expanded. And so I'm seen, I'm loved. And the third one is I'm wanted. It's like, I want you around. I want you not just because I need you, but I want you genuinely. I like you. You're good. And your contribution is good. So the ingredients we started peppering in and we've been working on is you have to belong to the self. That's important. And what degree, to the degree that we can recognize the parts of us that we've exiled early on is helpful. And the exiles return on their own. And there's this whole biblical theme. There's exiles and there's the return, or the scattering and the gathering. So there's these themes that are woven throughout the scriptures. Well, they're psychological themes. They work within us. It's very true. It's truer than just historically true. It's true at the deepest levels, because I know what it is like to be exiled, and you know what it is like to be exiled. You know what it is like when parts of you have been scattered. You also know when they're returning. And the exiles come back. And when they come back, Yeah, you have to be able to say yes to them. Or no, you'll say no, but now that you're aware, oh, they're returning. Whew, some of them, I don't know that I want them to return. Others, I'm excited about their return. And then they return, and that belonging to self happens there. And then there's the belonging that happens through your contribution too, because we each have a contribution to make to this world. And it's important that we feel like our contribution is wanted and loved. And I think that that's important. It's a place in the world. Like, I have a place in this world. And the third one is the belonging to the community. And it is the community as well that's responsible for making sure that it is also growing in that sense of creating a belonging, an environment of belonging. So you can see that it's circular. There is it's not like there's one starting point. You have to start here. It is, oh, right, I created this sort of circle of belonging. Oh, yeah, but there's this part of me that I'm not belonging in. And then you work on that part. And then, oh, there's this contribution that I really want to put out in the world, but somehow it's not been received in the circle. So, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So would we say then that, like, as you think about that in the context of a circle, then it's like recognizing that different individuals and people are entering into that circle at different spaces. It's not like, this is not a one size, this is not everybody starts at point A and makes their way to point B and then goes to point C, right? This is really that some people are having a deep sense of understanding or seeking inner work because they have found a community that has accepted them, or vice versa, right? And so it's like,
Absolutely. Where
you enter the growth journey is really unique to you and your situation. But what seems to be common is that you're paying attention, that you start waking up to it, right? Like, because you can be in all those environments and still not be growing, experience transformation, or even experiencing belonging.
Yeah, there's no fine. The interesting thing about the path, so I like to refer to our spiritual journey as the path. Okay, so it's the path is the path. You're on the path. To everybody, to every listener, you're on the path. There's no path to go find. There's no group that you got to go find. Now you may have to leave that may be your next step, but it's not this sort of like, I need to find something that's beyond me. It's outside of me. No, it's both within you and also on the outside of you. But sometimes we're so anxious to get that thing that we're looking for that we're in pursuit blindly. As you're saying, the lack of awareness is a big factor in that. Mm-hmm. So where you are right now, what is happening? What is the path bringing up for you? Is there resistance right now? Is there a challenge, a difficulty? And what is that about? And what is it saying to you? And I think as we begin to have conversation with that, in light of this idea of belonging, that you start to notice, oh, right, this keeps coming up for me. Mm-hmm. Why does this keep coming up for me?
Yeah.
And is there something here that keeps repeating for a reason? I found myself the other day, I can't even remember what the situation was, but I would get really animated about some issue. And then I was at the gym and I was talking to somebody about this. I was getting so animated about something that didn't need all that energy. Oh, I know what it was. I would tell the story of when I first learned to ski, and people were trying to tell me how to ski. I'm naturally athletic, so I learn things pretty quickly. So I get annoyed if someone's trying to give me all the details of everything I'm supposed to do. It's more of like, here's the one thing I need to know. There's only one thing I need to know: how to stop.
Yeah, how to stop.
Yeah. And they were like, well, do the snow plow. So I did the snow plow. It's not working. You see how I'm still moving pretty quickly downhill. It's like, oh, right, you need to lean back. Thank you. Okay, lean back and dig in. And why was I telling this story with such energy? And why does it keep repeating itself as a story that I would tell at different places? Like, you pay attention to the stories you tell yourself and you tell other people. And I remember thinking, oh, yeah, this is my feeling of being out of control, of other people controlling me. And whether you understand the connection or not, you don't need to. I do. I knew it was deeply connected. I don't know the rational connection. You don't always need to know. But I did feel that sense of like that plus being around irrationality that had power over me. And that was telling me what to do, but it was not thoughtful and it was not, it was just bad. Mm-hmm. And I had no control over that. All of this energy was coming up when I started having a conversation with that story. I used to just tell that story. Now I started having a conversation. Why? Why am I telling the story? What is it evoking inside of me? Right. So just by doing that, I was able to start making peace with some parts, some stories of the past that were just so painful. Mm-hmm. The only way that they exercised themselves was through stories I would tell. And now I needed to go, can I go back and lovingly hold that? Yeah. Just say, okay, that's true. That was my experience. Yeah. And it makes me angry, but it doesn't need to anymore. I can release that now and I can lovingly hold that. And that's a belonging. That's a sense of when we do this kind of work, there's a sense of, right. There's a deepening, there's a relaxing into who you are. Because every time you push against the world out there, it's not just the world, you're pushing against also yourself. Mm-hmm. We are interconnected. We cannot separate those two things out. Yeah. Like, well, I told that person where to go. Yeah, well, great. How do you feel internally? Yeah. Well, I feel great. You really? Think about that for a little while. Give it a few days. You know? Right? Why do you feel so icky about that? Right? So because you can't spit out anger and dirt and filth and all this other stuff out at the world and it not affect you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is coming back. And at this particular stage of my life, I'm trying to experience emotions. And I'm laughing about it because it's like some days that's what I have to do. I do have to actually laugh because it's just some of it just feels way too heavy. But I would say that in a lot of ways it is the path to understanding, and for me right now in particular, it is the path to coming to understand that it's like, no, where do I belong? And do I even belong here inside of me?
Yeah.
Right. And whose responsibility is it? But all this long story to say, one of the things that I've been, even this morning, I was like, I need to figure out and do grief well.
Yeah.
So that I can, and this is where I think the fault is, so that I can help others.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah.
When really, if I was to tell myself the truth, what I really need to do is figure this out and feel it so I can help myself have a deeper sense of belonging. Mm-hmm. And I want that. I do not want to feel disconnected. And like you said, I really don't want it to come up later. I don't want to be thinking about a ski story or those kinds of things. I really do want to be able to sit down and heal.
Oh, it is.
Anyways.
Are there practices like involved in some of this? Like when you were even just talking about, is it self-talk that you're holding space for? Do you journal? Are there other practices that are involved in even addressing those exiled parts of yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we're very eager to actually develop these practices because everything has to end up in practice. If it's not, then it just stays up in the sort of, thought area. For each person, it's going to probably be a little bit different. So for some, journaling is huge. Writing to yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, Tara, I know what you've been through. You can start to feel the emotion as soon as you start there, once you start talking to yourself that way. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful because it's your parts, your different parts that are starting to collaborate. We are multi-parts. Mm-hmm. Enneagram, we talk about head, heart, and body, right? Those are the three centers that we have, but we're very complex. And so when we exile, when we don't grieve, when we keep moving on, what happens? You've cut off a part of you. You've severed that off. So when it shows up, which it does, the first step is awareness. Everything starts with awareness. So practices around awareness, daily taking time to review your day, what happened, and have a conversation with those experiences. And a conversation means I'm going into this not trying to make sense of it necessarily. That should be the last thing we do, but it's always the first. At least for me, it is.
Yeah,
it's always the first. The thing you want to do is enter into it with whether you journal it, you think about it, you go for a walk. Some people do much more through the body. They process these things. What you want to do is have a conversation where you can walk into it with receptivity. Meaning, I'm gonna go there. It's gonna scare me a little bit, but I'm gonna go there. And so this event that took place today, that affect, oh, wow. I did notice it did affect me emotionally. Yeah, wow. Huh. What else do you want to say? Heart center. Interpretation is the head center thing. It's judgment, interpretation, understanding. Oh, it's because of this. Well, the reason why I felt that's because of the way I was raised. But that's all head stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just, no, go back to the emotion. What does that feel like? Sad. What does that feel like? Abandonment. What does that feel like? Lonely. Okay. Stay with it. Ask it for more. That's the heart. What else do you want to say about that? Is there anything else? Don't demand it. Don't chase it. Don't make it happen. Don't will your willpower. Some people are like, okay, weekend warrior, let's do this. Okay, heart center, tell me what's going on. And nothing happens. And then there's disappointment. This is a stupid practice.
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work. Yeah.
Next, right? And they go to another seminar. So or read another book. This is the problem, is that we're pursuing something when the answer is right in front of us. It always is right in front of us. The next step is always immediately in front of us. I always say it's the hardest thing. It's the simplest thing when you pay attention, but it's the most difficult thing also. So, what is it inviting you to? Well, yeah, right now, I guess I do need to think. I do need to process. Process doesn't mean think. It means let me feel that and allow it to say whatever it wants to say. Yeah. And the heart does not speak necessarily in words. It usually speaks in memories, speaks in images. A picture will flash through your mind, a scene. Then just notice that. Say, thank you. Thank you, heart. I appreciate that. When you feel pain, thank you, heart. I appreciate you sharing that with me. And as you do that, these parts start to feel like they can come back, right? The more you say yes to your heart, the more it'll give you. The more you say yes to your body, by the way, that's the third center. Of course, you have to do that with your body too. Mm-hmm. The more it will give you. So,
yeah, I think too, even as you were talking, one of the things that comes out or jumps out to me as well is even like you said, the next step is presents itself. It's there. I think one of the ways that I've talked about it or felt about it is the speed at which I take the next step. Like there's an assumption always that you're going the same speed. The next step has got to be right there. And it's like, and I find myself, doing the trip, because I'm like, I am not confident in the next step. And so for me, there are these moments too, when I probably, and while there are moments when I've actually been able to say to myself, well, I got to change the speed at which I'm walking here. Mm-hmm. And slow. And even at times reminding myself to slow even how fast I talk can be a helpful practice that for me has been really, really helpful. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those things they talk about in a lot of things, coaching, pastoral care, all those different things is like there's a time to kind of get up and speak and do your thing, and then there's also a time to slow down and to maybe listen or give space or airtime in between for other people to talk. But I think turning it inward on myself has been one of the biggest practices for me, is to go, no, I need to actually slow down. And admittedly, I'm not great at that in a lot of instances. In fact, I probably have often said, well, it's always everybody else is pressuring me to walk fast. to go fast, to do the next thing, or whatever that might be. And I really think it's been a bit of a cop-out to kind of go, no, actually, I've always been in control of the speed at which I go. And that's not just physically the speed at which I walk physically, but I'm actually talking more metaphorically now to kind of go, no, I can slow down. I can still be productive and allow whatever it is that we're fleeing from to catch us, and not be so afraid of what it's going to do to us. And that means dwelling within even the sin that I carry, or the brokenness that I carry, or even my unwillingness to look at the grief that I'm experiencing, or even all those blind spots that are still there. It's still messy. Mm-hmm. I think the more I come to a deeper sense of my own belonging, of who I am and what I was made for and created for, and all of the good stuff that comes with that.
Well, that's the way back to tie it back to belonging. That's the path to belonging. People think that the belonging is about removing problems, removing tension. So sometimes we look for an environment that makes us feel just nice and safe and comfortable and all this. And it is not the path to belonging or connection. The path to belonging is actually, you have to come, again, you have to look at the exiles within you that you don't like, because you're going to face people who reflect those parts of yourself that you have exiled, and you're going to exile them. And you're going to create this image of the way things should be from an ideological, political, or religious perspective. You're going to have an image of how things should be. And that is the thing that, to my mind, so this is my definition of sin, is actually the failure to grow.
Oh.
It's a failure when the path has said to you, here's your next step, and you say no. And it's not the first no, it's not the second, it's not the 10th no, it's not the 15th or the 100th no, because we're going to do that. Mm-hmm. It's when we've decided we're done and we're not moving forward. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So then do we settle into just being included? Like, is that the difference then between this mystical space of belonging and then just being like, I'll just settle for being included because it's safer?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great comparison. Let me sit there for a second. That's a great comparison. The difference between being included and belonging. Could you say a little bit more about that? There's something there that's pretty profound.
Oh, no, I was just going to make you say more about it. That was actually my strategy. What was I thinking when you were saying that? I just think it's less work, like to be included and to settle for that, to hide the pieces of ourselves that we don't want others to see. When you talk about those three elements of being seen and loved and wanted, it's so terrifying and vulnerable. And there's kind of this mystical element of belonging that you have to lean into. But if I'm just choosing to be included, or even settling to be included in spaces, I don't really have to risk much.
I think I'll jump in there. I think that one of the fundamental things we don't think about very often is there is a difference between fitting in and belonging. Right. And I think Brene Brown actually talks a little bit about that, right? The fitting in is like, you come into the space, you figure out the norms, the rules, the language, what you don't talk about, what you can talk about, how you can behave and all those things. And then you submit to that. You figure out how to, essentially keep your head down and fit in. That's fitting in or being included. Belonging is really the opposite of that. It is actually to come into a space and choose to be courageous and be who you are, be yourself. Even if that's a messy self that's still trying to figure some shit out, honestly. It's like that is still choosing to lean into that and to do the work of belonging, even if you haven't figured it out totally. But I would say, oh boy, the battery's going dead on my computer.
We're almost at time too.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I would say, 2 7s got on a call.
It was a bit.
I would say though that it is, as we wrap up, it is on you to do the courageous work of showing up as yourself. And you can't just say, well, I'm included in this environment, if all you've done is the work to fit into it. You haven't challenged that community enough to know if you belong. I think. I think you've only done enough to figure out what you need to do to fit.
Yeah.
And that's both a real reality and a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's both. for you and them. Like, it is essentially giving way to the fact that you are saying you don't have more to contribute to this community.
Yeah.
I'm just going to accept it for what it is and
which is
be
why
included.
Cliques are not places of belonging. It's really, really fragile, that space, and if you've been part of them.
Yeah.
There's agreement around beliefs, agreement around practices, agreement around this, agreement around that. We promise we're not going to say certain things. We're not going to do certain things. And
Yeah. Okay, my computer's almost dead. So
That's what we both like.
Can you tell us just real quick, tell us a little bit about the Art of Growth? Tell us what you're up to.
Yeah.
We hit the ground running so fast. We'll have to do an intro later because this is the person who's trained me in the Enneagram.
Yeah.
This is my actual teacher. So, but we didn't even talk about it. We just went straight. I think you went straight to coaching me is what happened. Pretty sure I found myself getting coached really quickly there. Yeah. Anyways, tell us a little bit about the Art of Growth. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot more corporate coaching these days. We started with a podcast. We love our podcast. We continue to do it just because we love doing it. We love sharing these thoughts. We're going to be in the next probably week or so, we're going to be releasing an entire season on attachment styles and stances. So we're going to get a whole opportunity to binge for many hours. So that's happening.
Well, we will be.
We will be.
Yeah.
We listen to them all.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. We love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then we're doing our first live event we're going to announce when it happens in Nashville. And we're going to do it on belonging and connection.
I love that.
And We're going to do some practices to try to do this together. So we're excited about that. I'm writing several books. And the reason why is because it was originally one book, and then I realized I had too many thoughts, too many ideas, needed to split them up. And I'm actually right now pursuing researching and trying to find a ghostwriter because I realize I am terrible at the process of writing. I can get my ideas down on paper, a lot of ideas, a lot of developed thoughts, but they're all over the place. And it's difficult to get them into, something that is readable. So, anyways, that's happening. Man, oh man. Yeah. We've got all kinds of irons in the fire. We're doing much more than that, but that's some of what we are doing, but we're passionate about. Number one passionate about is transformation, growth, and our belief that anybody can who wants to. And we're thrilled about it. We want to be people who are living our own growth in front of others as well. Because we think that we have to see each other growing to be encouraged to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I love being part of communities that grow. I don't want to ever be again part of a community that's just interested in keeping things the way they are. Because there's too much at stake for it. There's way too much at stake. So I'm with all of the people out there who are wanting to grow. You are my family. And so that's why I was eager to jump onto this podcast and be with you guys to spend some quality time together to talk about all of these things that we share in common.
Yeah. What a great gift.
Thank
you so much for joining us. I know we went over time and all that. I was pretty sure we would. But no, I really do appreciate it. And for your wisdom, not only in my life, but even just sharing with us on the podcast. It was awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. Well, we got to do this again, Joel, because I think there's more. I think there is more. So
yeah,
I'm glad to. Anytime.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later, ma'am. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We'd love if you take a moment to rate, subscribe, and review the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Again, thanks for listening.